Hello, everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. And of course, as I've promised you folks, we are continuing on with fixing D20 Modern, looking through the various advanced classes and trying to fix up some of the more broken and kinda useless classes that are available. Sadly, there's a decent number of those in D20 Modern and throughout its supplements, but in spite of all that, D20 Modern still remains one of my favorite systems, in as much what you can do with it as anything else, especially the settings. The game is designed to be flexible, modifiable, which I think is just absolutely wonderful. But it does mean that there's more work to be done on the part of us GMs, DMs, storytellers, whatever you want to call yourself. And for today's advanced class, we are taking a look at the Daredevil. Now, what is the Daredevil? Well, think Evil Knievel, your stuntmen, the guys that do the insanely long jumps across incredible terrain, obstacles, and then they safely land on the other side, or at least that's the hope. This can also be your motocross drivers, your monster truck guys, things like that. Those can all fall under the Daredevil's purview. And in theory, again, like with all the classes, it sounds like an absolutely fantastic class. Something a lot of characters, a lot of concepts and builds would benefit from having. But that's really, unfortunately, not the case. Both from its static bonuses as well as its class abilities. It kind of fails to do a lot for most character builds. It doesn't even do that great at being a daredevil. But let's go ahead and dig right into this and continue on with the autopsy and see how we can't revive and Frankenstein this monster back to life. To begin with, the Daredevil's requirements to get into it are +2 base attack bonus, concentration of 6 ranks, and drive of 6 ranks. And really, the fastest way into this class is through the Tough Hero base class. You get 1d10 for hit points, your usual action points of 6 plus 1 half your character level rounded down. You get skill points of 5 plus your intelligence modifier. Your class skills are balance, climb, concentration, demolitions, drive, escape artist, intimidate, jump, knowledge of current events and popular culture, perform act, pilot, profession, read or write languages, ride, speak languages, spot, swim, and tumble. Your base attack bonus does not really get a very good progression here. You start off at 0 by level 1, and then at level 10 you'll get up to a +5. Your fortitude saves are fantastic. You get a 2 to begin with at level 1, and then you progress all the way up to a +7 by the time you hit level 10. And it stacks and meshes really nicely with the Tough Hero base class and the good fortitude saves that they get there. Reflex and will saves, though, are absolute pure garbage. You start off at zeros and end up at threes. It's pretty damned awful. And your defensive bonus is actually really good here. You start off at a 1 and get a nice +7. So, in theory, you should be a bit harder to hit. And your reputation bonus is, of course, not great either, but then again, I can think of plenty of monster truck drivers where they're more known by the truck and the truck name rather than their own. But, I digress. And of course, as I'm fond of saying, most of these advanced classes live and die by their abilities, and the Daredevil unfortunately does not get a lot of great things here. It's pretty terrible overall. At level 1, the Daredevil gets Fearless, and what this does is it gives them a +4 bonus to their will saves to resist fear effects and on level checks to oppose intimidate checks. And then level 2, they get Nip Up, also called Kip Up by most of the people I know, but you are able to now stand from the prone position as a free action, and this does not provoke an attack of opportunity, and this kicks in for you at level 2. For your bonus feats, kicking in at 3rd, 6th, and 9th level, you get to select feats from the following list: Acrobatic, Armor Proficiency Light and Medium, Athletic, Brawl, Cautious, Dodge, Force Stop, Improve Brawl, Improve Damage Threshold, Improve Knockout Punch, Mobility, nimble, spring attack, street fighting, surface vehicle operation, so your cars, motorcycles, etc., toughness, vehicle dodge, and vehicle expert. And then, of course, going on from there, at level 4, you get Action Boost. The Daredevil is now allowed to spend 2 action points on a single action instead of just 1. They may roll the first point, then decide if they want to roll the second before the GM has declared the results of the roll. It's a nice idea, but overall, this does not. I don't know. You're still spending 2 action points. Feel like that you could get something a bit better out of this one. And the same goes for Adrenaline Rush, which comes in at 5th and then upgrades at 8th level. The Daredevil may now temporarily increase one of their physical ability scores, so your strength, dexterity, or constitution, by spending an action point to increase the selected score by 1d4 plus 1. This increase lasts a number of rounds equal to their Daredevil class level, and once the increase ends, the Daredevil is exhausted for 1d4 plus 1 rounds. At 8th level, the Daredevil can increase 2 stats and is exhausted for 1d6 plus 2 rounds. So, not great, especially for a class that's really not all that great at combat. Why you'd want to be increasing your scores is beyond me, and I'm not sure why you would want to go with this. It just is not great and does not mesh well overall. Apologies for the delay there, folks. You know him, you love him. It's my other most adorable co-host, Initiate Atticus, apprentice storyteller, and of course he is uninitiated to the even the lowest circles of lore, but he is of course on his way to becoming a storyteller extraordinaire, and has a pretty solid mastery over his charm spells and spell-like abilities. He's going to be joining me now for the rest of this video. Appreciate your patience in getting this all sorted. So, where were we? Oh, right. Okay. We were up to the 7th level ability for the Daredevil, and that is Delay Damage. Once per day, the Daredevil may delay the damage of a single attack or effect for a number of rounds equal to their class level. So for 7 rounds, you don't have to worry about that shot that you took. Now, this ability is kind of useful, especially if there's a critical hit that you just got nailed with, given how mass damage saves work, which it actually now occurs to me that's a rule that I have not discussed yet, so that may be the video for next Sunday in tackling D20 Modern and its fixes. But its usefulness is hit or miss. It's situational. It's not always going to come up. And not only that, but this class is not built or optimized for combat in any way, shape, or form, even from a defensive standpoint, although this is kind of an interesting defensive ability. Although it's an inconsistently effective one, especially since it's only once per day that you get to do this. It's really limiting. But then, going on from there, we have the level 10 ability, which is Damage Threshold. And this affects the aforementioned massive damage saves. The Daredevil now increases their massive damage threshold by 3. This increase stacks with any other increases provided by improved massive damage threshold feat or the like. And what the threshold is it's based off of your Constitution score. Not the modifier, but the total score. So if you have an 18 in your Constitution, if you take 18 or more points of damage, that's a massive damage save. The difficulty of which is 10 plus however much damage went over your threshold. So if you took 20 points of damage, it's a DC 12 fortitude save to overcome it. And in this particular case, if you have an 18, this increases your threshold by 3. So if you take 20 points of damage, your threshold is at 21, so you're safe. You don't have to worry about rolling a save. Now, depending on how you play and how you build things and the class that you're running with for your particular build, you can pretty easily and consistently start overcoming a lot of massive damage thresholds and potentially reduce a target to 0 hit points in one shot, even though you may have only done 35 or 40 points of damage. So, so exploiting mass damage saves is a really common way of tearing through a lot of opponents. And what you typically see happen then is DMs throwing out a lot of creatures or opponents without Constitution scores and thus are not subject to mass damage saves, or have really ridiculously high Constitution scores. So that way they get both a bunch of hit points, a good Fortitude save, and a very high threshold for mass damage saves because you're not going to be consistently hitting 30 to 40 points of damage, but uh, so that will prevent a lot of those mass damage saves from happening. But that's usually going to be bosses and the like, unless your DM is particularly cruel and mean to you. So it's a good. In the rules as they're written, this is actually not a bad ability, but I don't quite like how mass damage saves work. It feels a little bit cheap at times to have that happen. You have a good encounter going with some kind of mortal humanoid creature thing, and then somebody rolls a lucky shot, gets max damage or close to it, and then they happen to get just a crappy fortitude save, and boom, they drop to 0 hit points. From a realism standpoint, it makes a certain amount of sense because depending on the level of trauma that's inflicted on the body, the brain will go, nope, we're not dealing with this. We can't deal with this. We're going to go to sleep now. So it makes sense from that standpoint, but we're playing a game, escapist fantasy in the highest order, and I don't know. It's just something that's never quite sit well with me, in spite of how much I love this game. And overall, the Daredevil class is kind of an odd mix of abilities. Ones that don't synergize very well, some that are clearly meant for combat, although you're not a combat built kind of character. Some people say this is supposed to be a defensive character with that high defense bonus, the high hit points, and the good constitution score that, or saving throw score that stacks with the good constitution. Goodness, I keep saying constitution instead of fortitude. The good fortitude saves that already stack with the good fortitude saves from the tough hero base class. But there's not a lot of abilities to back this here other than these two in this moment. The adrenaline boost kind of can boost your constitution score, but then when you're able to boost two scores, the only real sensible option would be to boost your dexterity score because that'll affect your initiative, reflex saves, your armor, all of these things, as well as a considerable number of skills, including your drive skill. But I don't know. The synergy is minimal. The class is not built for combat, and I really don't think it's a good defensive class, in spite of the fact that you have a potential synergy working together, meshing of 4 class abilities here. It really does not come together very well, in my opinion. But for Tuesday's video, that's where we're going to be covering the fixes for the Daredevil class. And we take this from something that looks like it's intended to be a defensive role and put it into more of a stronger group support role, as well as making it a decent driver based off of some of its abilities. So, with that said, we have been your hosts tonight. If you enjoyed today's video, go on down there to the comments section, let us know, hit the like button, or even if you didn't enjoy what we've done here today, let us know in the comments, hit the dislike button. Let's engage in the conversation and see where you feel I went wrong, where I may have totally went wrong, and what other alternate opinions and thoughts you have regarding this class. Or if you want to see more, over here are going to be 2 more videos. One, the almighty Google Rhythm has decided that you will enjoy as well here on YouTube. The other is just another thing that I've done fairly recently. Or if this has not been your first stop with us here at the Gamers Den, then hell, why not be a subscriber? Go on down there, hit the button, become a regular member here at the Gamers Den, join the rest of the alumni, and get notified the next time we upload more content here. But with that said, we have been your hosts, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire, Atticus, your your apprentice storyteller, and the uninitiated to any circles of lore. Thank you all so much for your time, and you have yourselves a good night. We did it, buddy. Good job bringing that charisma. Oh, goodness, gotta shut it off now. I know, you can't quite see.